December 24th, the night before Christmas, and an 8-year-old girl approaches the door. She opens it up to find a tall man with black shoes and a red hat. She quickly finds out that it's Santa Claus. However, she notices something under his shirt. Now it seems that Santa brought presents for her and the rest of her family, so she excitedly runs over to hug him, before being shot in the head with a 9mm bullet. The series of events that unfold are so severe that the victims can only be disclosed through their previous dental records. Now this is the story of Bruce Pardo and the Christmas Massacre. San Fernando Valley, California, 1963. Bruce Jeffrey Pardo is born and later attends John Francis Polytechnic High School. He exceeds expectations in math and science, so when he picks a major for college, he goes with computer science. He then lands a job as a software engineer after college at the JPL in California. During his time there, he gets along with one of his female co-workers, and the two get engaged in 1988. However, when the wedding is in full swing, he leaves his bride and 250 guests out to dry and hides in their honeymoon spot in Palm Springs. Sadly, this will not be the last time that he displays this type of behavior. In 2001, Bruce and his new girlfriend Elaine unwind in Woodland Hills with their 13-month-old son, Bruce Matthew. Now the father, Bruce, is glued to the TV when he's supposed to be watching over his own son. Now in the meantime, the infant slowly crawls its way into the backyard, slips into the pool, and almost drowns. He learns that his son suffered severe brain damage and would be left paraplegic for the rest of his life. Now after hearing this, he suddenly disappears, leaving his girlfriend and infant without any warning. Now even though he has no issue leaving his son with a disability, he still claims the boy on his tax return to save money. More on this later on. Later in 2004, a co-worker introduces Bruce to a woman named Sylvia Ortiz, who is a single mom with 3 kids. She's absolutely love-struck when she meets the 6'4" charismatic engineer. She goes on to tell friends how intelligent and good-looking Bruce is, as well as his good sense of humor. Now Sylvia is an extroverted but down-to-earth woman. Coming from a large family, the relationship moves quickly, and by January 2006, the two are already married and moved to a new home. Now the 3-bedroom house costs around $500,000 and is a perfect fit for the family of 5. They then buy a new family dog and regularly go to church, where Bruce is the usher every Sunday. Sylvia has 2 brothers and 2 sisters, with their kids and the mother and the father, who are the head of the family. However, as quick as the relationship was built, it begins to separate even quicker. Now Sylvia tells friends that the moment she and Bruce exchanged vows, he became more and more distant. He's no longer loving, and never gives Sylvia any attention, and the two constantly fight over money. Now Bruce doesn't want to open a joint bank account for both of them, and instead wanting to keep everything separate. His once lavish nature turned into him not wanting to spend a single penny on Sylvia or her kids. However, Sylvia tries her best to find out what happened and calls Bruce's mother, Nancy Pardo, to get some answers. However, his mother then drops a bombshell. She tells Sylvia that Bruce had a previous son that he abandoned and never takes care of. When Sylvia hears of this, she's completely in denial, refusing to believe what happened. She then proceeds to go through Bruce's tax returns until she finds that he actually does have a kid and that he's been claiming him on his taxes. The ordeal has been saving him a lot of money, despite him completely abandoning his own son. Now at this point, Sylvia is absolutely furious, and in March of 2007, files for divorce. Even though she wants out of the marriage, she wants to stay in the family home for a bit longer. So she then asks Bruce if she could stay in the house until her daughter is done with the last few months of school. Now his response to this was packing up the family's belongings and throwing them outside, telling them to get out of his house. Now a year passes by, and the judge in charge of the settlement orders Bruce to pay around $1,800 a month in spousal support, allowing Sylvia to keep the wedding rings and family dog. After a few months, in June of 2008, Bruce is fired from his job, working with radar systems after his boss finds out that he's been earning money for many hours that he did not work in. Now authorities state that these series of events would push Bruce Pardo off the deep end. However, despite the unfortunate span of events, Bruce seems perfectly normal. Friends and family say that he's charming to be around, but this is all just an illusion, part of a barbaric plot for revenge. Throughout the course of 5 months, Bruce buys 5 weapons and loads up on ammunition. In October of 2008, he met with a friend in Iowa, and there he stockpiles 16 pistol magazines, each filled with 18 bullets. Once he returns to California, he goes to a costume store and orders a custom-sewn Santa suit, asking if they could leave extra space. And for the first time in his life, he decides to spend a little bit more money, paying about $200 for the suit and even leaving a $20 tip. And on December 18th, 2008, the judge signed off on the divorce under one condition. Bruce needs to sign a mandatory check for about $10,000 to his now ex-wife Sylvia, to which he actually agrees, knowing all too well that she will not be alive to take advantage of it. A few days later, on December 24th, a blue Dodge parks near a house in the suburbs of Covina. A large man in a Santa suit treads over to the front door of the Ortega house. While this is all happening, their family Christmas party is thriving, about 30 friends and family members taking part, with the adults playing poker and the kids playing in a different room. At 11:30 p.m., the doorbell rings, and 8-year-old Katrina Yaspolsky answers the door and finds Santa. However, instead of presents, he draws a pistol and shoots the young girl, and proceeds to spray the house with bullets as people run in a panic. In the midst of the shooting, Letitia Yaspolsky, who is the girl's mother, grabs her injured daughter and runs to a neighbor's house to call the police.
He's shooting! He's shooting! What's your address? Ma'am, I understand. I need to know your address.
I don't know who else is alive.
I know, ma'am. Just stay on the phone with me, okay?
My whole family, there's 30 people, 25 people.
I know.
When he shot, I heard the shots and they were like poppers and I wasn't sure what it was, so everyone started panicking and running, so we all dove under the dining room. Some of us dove, some of us left. I don't know. My daughter has been shot. She was shot in the face on the side and she's bleeding.
I know, I let the officers know. The officers are making sure it's safe for the paramedics to
I
come
need a
in.
bandage, please.
Now, although the person is wearing a Santa costume, Letitia is able to clearly establish that Bruce Pardo was in fact the gunman responsible. However, back at the Ortega home, this was just the beginning. Bruce then pulls out a gift-wrapped flamethrower made up of a compressor filled with 18 gallons of gas. Bruce then proceeds to spray it all over the house, staring at it go up in flames. Bruce then heads back to the Dodge and turns off the lights, driving away undiscovered as the house is being engulfed in flames. He then drives about 30 miles to his brother's house in Sylmar, California, and authorities later find Bruce's lifeless body on the floor and declare him dead. They then find 2 handguns on scene, one on Bruce's lap and the other on the floor. His death is then labeled a suicide. Police then search Bruce's car, which matches the description of the one that was leaving the Ortega home. They open the door to find the scorched remains of a Santa costume, along with several rounds of ammunition. However, what police don't realize is that the car is rigged with a pipe bomb. So the moment that they remove the Santa suit, the car explodes, and burning all the evidence with it. Now you're probably asking why Bruce would take his own life after targeting many members of the Ortega family. After all, they seemed like a normal family that had nothing to do with Bruce. Well, that's because authorities found that Bruce's ex-wife, Sylvia Ortiz, had the maiden name Ortega, revealing that the victims of the massacre were her and many of her other family members. As a result, 9 people died that night, along with 3 generations of the Ortega family. The first being Sylvia Ortega, 43 years old. Her parents, Joseph and Alicia Ortega, 80 and 70 years old, and Sylvia's sister, Alicia Ortiz, 46, Alicia's son, Michael Ortiz, 17, Sylvia's 2 older brothers, James, 52, and Charles, 50. Their wives, Teresa, 51, and Cherry, 45. The ordeal turns 13 children into orphans, where they must live the rest of their lives with no parents. The Ortega home was burned to the ground, with a group of investigators later describing the site as apocalyptic. Strangely, investigators think that Bruce's suicide was unplanned. Now they believe that Bruce was formerly planning a getaway vehicle in a rental car that was in Pasadena, outside the house of Sylvia's attorney. The car consists of plane tickets and thousands of dollars in cash, and investigators suspect that Bruce planned to take out Sylvia's lawyer and his own mother Nancy, since she stayed close to Sylvia after the divorce. After these 2 planned murders, detectives say that he would either go to Mexico or Canada to start a new life. However, a medical report found that Bruce endured third-degree burns because his Santa costume accidentally caught on fire and thus melted into his skin. It was then suspected that it was actually the pain from the injuries he suffered, rather than the guilt from the murders that drove Bruce to take his own life. What's most shocking to me is that prior to the shooting, Bruce never had any criminal or violent history. Now you'd think that after such a surreal event, the Ortegas can't escape what happened. However, Leticia Ortega, the woman who made the 911 call, admits that she will never forget the ordeal, and that she works to preserve and save Christmas for everyone. And even though the Ortega family experiences anxiety and nightmares around the holiday season, they honor the lives lost by connecting with other survivors of gun violence. They try to offer comfort and optimism to ensure that the victims are never alone.